long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans.
The government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government.
Welcome to The Politics Guys, a place for bipartisan, rational, and civil debate on American politics and policy. I'm Michael Baranowski, a professor of political science at Northern Kentucky University. I'm joined today by my conservative counterpart, Cleveland area attorney and defender of freedom, Jay Carson.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike.
Hey, Jay. So, I got to say, listeners, if you're a listener for a while, you know that Jay and I, we record this midweek show after we do the regular show. And, well, I'm almost totally done. a lot of adrenaline, but the trip took a lot out of me. But there was something I wanted to say, and I'll say it now just because what the hell I can, is that, and I mentioned this to you in the pre-show, that traveling somewhere out of the country as a potential resident, it's very different than traveling as a tourist. And I got to say, it opened my eyes both to the ways in which France and Italy are really cool and interesting and maybe do things differently, like in real life, as opposed to what they do for tourists, but also really made me appreciate a lot of things about the United States as well. And so I know how fortunate I am to be in a position to be able to travel every once in a while. But just to say to folks, if you are, maybe consider not just if you're in Rome, seeing the Parthenon and the Colosseum, and all that was very cool, but going off to some little town and just kind of driving around and talking to people. And it's a deeply, deeply satisfying experience. And I just want to throw it out there. So
we're glad to have you back.
I am
gallivanting around Europe like some kind of European.
Well, yes, as I mentioned to you and one of our mutual friends, is one of the weirdest things was that because we were there for like 3 weeks, I think I saw one Ford F-150 the entire time, and we were all over the place. You know, it was just the lack of pickup trucks was just so deeply weird, right? And the cars are
how do they haul stuff over there?
I don't know. It's a great question. But if you saw the streets, you'd understand why you would not want an F-150 unless you had a death wish, basically. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about that we didn't get to the regular show. And I thought we would start with something, well, kind of very different for us. In hundreds of episodes, as far as I know, we haven't really done a feature, a segment that exclusively focuses on UFOs or I think UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Actually, I think we have.
Maybe have we? It's been a while, I guess.
I'm pretty sure we have, yeah.
Well, we're doing another one right now.
Let's doing another one, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, there was
the Men in Black zapped you with the thing there. That makes you forget.
I'm so punchy right now. Who knows? You could say anything. Yeah. Anyway, but this last week, 3 former U.S. officials testified before the House Oversight Committee that, hey, the government knows a lot more about these UFOs or UAPs. You use whatever term you want, than it's admitted to the public. And really, I think the one person testifying, sort of the highlight, was a former intelligence official with seems like a sterling record, not a weird malcontent guy, David Grush, who said that the Pentagon has had a multi-decade program in which they've collected and reconstructed crashed UAPs, and they're doing this using covert black budget funding that hasn't been authorized by Congress, and yet trying to reverse engineer this technology, presumably for some sort of military advantage. And he was joined by a couple of former naval aviators who said, well, we see this stuff not all that irregular basis, but there's a stigma attached to reporting it. There's no way to report it through the FAA if you're a civilian. And that one of them said, David Fravor said that the technology that he and his fellow pilots saw at one point was far superior to anything that we had, and that it defied logical explanation. So, Jay, what do you think? Is the truth out there? Do you buy the government cover-up thing, or what's your view on all this?
Well, we get into these things, and it's. Do you remember there was the one season of the X-Files where
I like where this is going. I don't know where it's going, but any sentence that starts that way, I'm good with.
Yeah, no, they set up this thing of the aliens and fake aliens, and then like on the whole presumption that people would buy into this and then be exposed as fakes, and that would better enable them to hide the real aliens.
Conspiracy. Yep.
It was like sort of, several levels of conspiracy. And for people who are younger, you really should go back and watch the X-Files.
Absolutely.
The first couple years, I think it needed to kind of hit its stride. But I would say from like 91 through like 96, that's some of the best television ever.
Good stuff. No question.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Not just Rachel Scully. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I don't know what to make of this, because I think it's entirely possible that we could do things like this, right? When we're so deep in that we would have people who would say we think we have these alien things, so that they will be dismissed. So they won't look deeper into the fact that these are actually our own, top secret prototype aircraft that we don't want the Russians or the Chinese to know we have, that sort of thing, right? It gets into this kind of deep conspiracy thing, and at some point the mind just boggles, right? And until we see, I think, some actual physical evidence, and I suppose to some extent these, the tapes and things are physical, right? And the records of radar contacts. It's and even when we do get physical stuff, right? It's going to be extremely difficult to say, yes, this is definitely true or definitely false.
And the vast majority,
at least that's my point, right? Because anybody can lie, or they can be tricked into lying, or they can often believe that what they're saying is true. And
I think we start there. Because it seems to me that I want to focus on Grush, who makes the biggest claims, right? Now he's admitted that he hasn't seen any of this firsthand. People have told
him. He's heard that there's alien bodies, yeah.
Right. But so either he is lying and knows he's lying, or he's telling the truth as he understands it, but he's being lied to. Those are the only two options for his testimony, right? And if he's lying, then the question is, well, what does he have to gain? And as far as I can tell, aside from his 15 minutes of fame, less than that, 15 seconds, he really doesn't have anything to gain from this, as far as I can tell. And so my assumption is that he believes what he is saying. And so then the question for me becomes, well, does he believe it because it is true, in fact, or does he believe it because people are telling him things that they either know to be untrue, or telling them because they want him to spread a narrative that they think will be helpful for various reasons, right?
Or the poster in Mulder's office that says, "I want to believe." Yeah,
I want to believe. That's right. Yeah, there's that. So yeah. I mean,
which there's something of that too.
But right? I guess whenever it comes to these kind of multi-decade huge conspiracies, my first thought is always the incredible difficulty of maintaining something like this big for this long. And so I come into this very, very skeptical. I don't find it hard to believe that the Pentagon has some sort of skunk works that they're using with black budget funding to do stuff with advanced technology, the origins of which we don't maybe know, or not to say they're not human, right? But to go further and say, alien technology, what's the phrase from Sagan? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And as far as I can tell, we don't have that. But that aside, the very real non-alien question is, there are Pentagon programs looking at this, and they're being funded by money that's being misappropriated, that's a pretty clearly earthbound sort of issue that Congress absolutely should look into and do something about. Yeah.
Although I don't think they would focus on that issue.
No, probably not. That's not the more interesting issue, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. But I guess another issue is, I think there's a distinction between covering up documents about UAPs or UFOs, which I feel fairly confident the government is probably doing. They haven't been transparent about this, and that seems to me to be almost absolutely the case. but there's also covering up knowledge of the existence of alien intelligence, alien technology sort of thing. That's a far bigger deal. And we don't know if that's happening. But again, given how extraordinary that would be, I would need a lot of evidence to suggest that that happens. But I don't think we necessarily, maybe we do have a Tesseract that we're using to make all this cool stuff, but I think that's highly, highly unlikely, I guess.
So yeah, to me, and this is one of the things that strikes me as curious, is that if we do have access to this technology, why aren't we just totally kicking ass?
Yeah, and given that reports of this go back decades.
If this is the Russians, then why haven't they won in Ukraine?
Yeah.
If this is the Chinese, why haven't they taken Taiwan yet?
Yeah. I think those are all reasonable questions, especially because, some of these reports about the similar kind of stuff date back 20, 30 years, and you can't tell me that.
There's also, I think you can look at, and people have done this, the UFO sightings of the 1970s and the V-shaped crafts and all that kind of thing look a whole lot like the stealth fighters and stealth bombers of the 1990s.
Right, and so that just could be technology that is being worked on that civilians aren't aware of, right, or even experts, or a lot of experts, and it just happened to be in early stages of development. And, some other folks have pointed out that you're telling me that aliens have the technology to get from other parts of the galaxy, right, other solar systems, but yet they crash on Earth. It's just like,
I see that. Look, you could drive cross country, right? That'd be a big thing, and
Yeah, if they're that advanced, you'd like to think they have an anti-collision system.
They would have something better, but
Anyway, so let me ask you this: here's another way to look at it. Let's say the government does know about these UAPs. Do you think it has an obligation to tell the public? Because I think you could make an argument that maybe they don't. Maybe covering up knowledge of this wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. And I wanted to get your take on that.
This does get to more your Plato's noble lie kind of thing here.
Absolutely.
Again, and I guess I think I would say yes. I think let me think through this a little bit.
So I think we need to think about it in terms of if let's say the president, because this would have to be a presidential announcement, I would think. You wouldn't want just some Department of Defense official. If the president hadn't given a national address and said, we have evidence that we believe a strong probability is non-human, highly advanced technology. Our best scientists have concluded it has to come from some sort of alien source. We don't know what.
Right.
Now, how would people react? People would freak out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's maybe something to be said for avoiding a freak out. But then when I think about how would people freak out? What would they do? I don't know. They just would. I don't know if they would be all that dangerous necessarily. People like, oh my God, but what do you do with that? Not like you.
Oh, I think there is some. I think the implications would be
massive.
Tremendous. But you wouldn't necessarily see them all at once. And it's often, I often think about, because I'm like a big scholar of colonial history and all that sort of thing. That when the Mayflower arrived in Plymouth, that was tantamount to like the USS Enterprise appearing in the skies.
Right.
You know what I mean? Above us.
Yep.
There were two cultures that came in contact, and this is, again, it sort of fundamentally rocked your world as to what exists, what's possible, what's, I think that's, and even if you don't actually have contact with that culture, but just knowing that some incredibly superior culture exists.
And so you're saying that maybe the government might say, you know what, this could be massive. We don't know what's going to happen. And the best thing to do, since there don't seem to be any interest on the part of these.
And if there's like nothing we can do about it.
So we might as well just, why take the risk of freaking people out and having all kinds of weird consequences?
When they show up over New York, well, then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, I think that seems, I think given what I think I know about how politicians think, how bureaucrats think, I think that would be the most likely response, actually.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because this is something else that intrigues me. It's not really a political question. It's more of a philosophical, almost kind of question. If you were confronted with hard evidence that extraterrestrial intelligence existed and visited our world, could you believe it? Right? If you follow me.
Well, I mean,
I'm not entirely sure that everyone could.
Oh, I'm sure you're right that plenty of people would absolutely refuse to believe it. I think it gets into some potentially.
I mean, if the president came on and if Joe Biden came on TV tonight, and announced that we are not alone, well, I'd say, well, I don't believe most of the stuff Joe Biden says on any given day, and this is plainly meant to distract from Hunter's difficulties.
Good point.
Maybe that's the thing. So in the great scheme of things, what does some tax payments or payments from Burisma make that much of a difference? But
because aliens, I
just think that's, and it's not even so. Would you believe it? But would you have the capability even to believe it? I don't know that we're necessarily even wired for that.
I think plenty of us aren't. I mean, there are still, plenty of people who believe that the moon landing was faked, right, and all that. So I think, you could easily convince yourself that humans are unique in all of creation. We're the only truly rational thinking animals at our best, that sort of thing. Dolphins aside.
But I mean, do you get to a point where you distrust your own senses, right? Your own observations. If you see the UFO come down, land in your backyard, guys ET gets out. Do you say, now I absolutely believe, or do you say, geez, I need to get my head checked?
Yeah, some people absolutely would be. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No
I
question,
think there's the big possibility of saying, listen, that can't be what happened. there must be something wrong with me. I must be hallucinating. It must have been something else that I misinterpreted. I must, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I just think
that's not a political question.
No,
but I
human nature kind of question.
In the big scheme of things, it all ends up being a political question. But
well, if I were in charge, information probably wouldn't get out. So I don't know. I would just keep it. I got to think that if Donald Trump knew about this, we'd all know about it at this point. I don't know, because he's not exactly.
I think so. But then that gets to the other question of
are we telling the president?
Do you tell the president?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. Tinfoil hat time. I don't know, but you can go pretty far with that. But anyway, I do not expect the truth to be revealed in any convincing way at any point in the near future. I imagine, unless they show up above Manhattan.
And again, I think that's what it would take. It would have to be that massive, actual UFO above a major city or something like that, where millions of people see it at the same time, and it's all in real time. Yeah,
no question. We hope you enjoyed this preview of our supporters exclusive midweek show. If you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, we hope you'll consider becoming a supporter. Supporters get ad-free access to all of our shows, membership in our Politics Guys Discord group where you can join in on the conversation, and other benefits at different levels of support. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/politicsguys. You can also support us through Venmo or @politicsguys, or through PayPal. You'll find all of our support links in the show notes, as well as at politicsguys.com/support. And if you'd like to get the midweek show, but you're not in a position to become a financial supporter, that's not a problem. Just send me an email at mike@politicsguys.com, and I'll be happy to get that set up for you.